fare Chiellini, poi il limite della destra, Tevez da solo, Tevez al limite dell'area, fa fuori tutti, Tevez, si apre la porta, Tevez, da dietro, Pirlo dentro,
Buongiorno bianconeri, welcome back to the All Juve Cast channel. Of course, it's all Juve all the time, and it's match day. It's Juve, it's Lazio, it's the Coppa Italia. All right, we're going to talk about this matchup. We're going to talk about the importance. We're going to talk about all the news since the loss to Monza and everything that's going down. So we'll tackle everything, and it's never a shortage of news for Juve. And when Juve's trending, you hear everything from the headlines all over the map. So we're going to tackle it all and get into it. I got Omer, I got Luca, and we're going to have some fun. I'm going to say what's up real quick to everybody in the live chat, reminding you all to hit those likes immediately as you jump in here and join us, all right? So Michael Rasso coming in here saying, ciao, AJC and Juventus. Today, we go back to winning ways. Forza Juve sempre. Hey, hopefully we got to get the job done. We'll talk about the importance and significance that Coppa Italia has really become since all this chaos around the club and whatnot. Bob Yogsal coming in. Yeah, ciao AJC, Forza Juve, andiamo. Anthony, ciao guys. Expecting a response today. Hey, how many times can we expect a response in a season? That's another question I have, and I talked about it on the last pod, saying that it is extremely difficult to keep asking this of your guys, and even for Max, he's not a rah guy, but to try and turn around this team this many times, it's tough. Has the points deduction become the final nail in the coffin for the mentality of these players? We'll look at that today, and we'll talk about it for sure. Good morning going out to Vito as well, and ciao to Remo and CJ coming in here saying we hit rock bottom today. We start to climb back to the top. Hey, let's see what happens. So Omar today, Luca today, and myself, we're going to tackle this one. We're going to start off with the news, like I said, and then start shining a light on the actual matchup. Okay, so let's get into it. So the U19s. First, we're going to talk about the U19s. All right, with the little statistics being put out there yesterday, we were asked a question on the live that said, give us your short list of managers. And Montero was put there, obviously, as an interim and whatnot. And if you look at the U19s, statistically speaking, pretty good. But it's funny, and it always comes down to preference. Because if we look at the U19's numbers, and I'm just trying to dig them up here, the stats were good. And I thought I had it here. Hang on a sec.
They're good.
We got bombarded with stuff yesterday. I'll have to dig it up here. So Montero has got them 4 points behind first place with the best attack, 40 goals, 28 goals conceded. In the Champions League for the U19, second in their group, despite drawing the finalists, PSG and Benfica, 17 goals scored and 14 conceded in 6 games. So all is well, all is good. They're doing well. They're in there. And some fans still shine a light saying, wow, that is 44 goals conceded. 42 goals conceded while scoring 45 in all comps there. So it's funny because it all comes down to this. Are they really doing it? And it all comes down to preference. For me, I say this. I don't really care about that, to be honest. And at the end of the day, it's the results. It's where do they stand? They're 4 points out of first. They've got second in their Champions League group and whatnot. What difference does it make how many they concede if they're still getting the results? And ultimately, that's what it is. It's results. It's where do you stand and where you're at. So it's just funny how that can be shifted and looked at. And for me, I will always remain the same in terms of preference. So everybody has to understand that when we talk about opinions and whatever, and we share our opinions on football and everything, it's still always gonna be based around preference. Anytime anyone gives an opinion, it will lean towards their preference. For me, I always say the same. If you're going to go out swinging and go out fighting. And you know what? Ultimately, nobody's going to look at how many goals you scored and how many goals you conceded at the end of the year if you're top of the league. Nobody goes back and says, oh my God, I can't believe they allowed 67 goals that season. That's wild. Who cares? It's where you finish. Guys, want to get your thoughts on this whole thing because those stats were brought down based on some looking at, oh my God, how many goals they conceded. So what do you guys think when it comes to that? And either one of you can kick us off on this one.
Okay, I'll kick us off. Look, what you said is 100% correct. Opinions are one thing, and there are actual facts. We can give our opinions all the time, but it doesn't change what is actually happening, how many we considered, scored, where we are in the table, who we signed, who we let go. Doesn't matter. We think something, the reality is something different. Might be. Now, in regards to conceding, Luke, of course, you remember the season we made it to the Champions League final against Real Madrid, and we conceded, 2 goals that entire campaign? Real Madrid conceded up until the final 18 goals, which is Porto numbers for Champions League. But does it matter? They won. Doesn't matter. And we conceded 2 and lost. So it doesn't really matter. As far as defending goes, defending has always been something that the older guys do better than the young guys because it takes a lot more experience. For attacking players, it just flair and, just the way you play and your technical ability. Defending has always been something that is directly correlates to seniority and knowing where to stand, where to cover. These guys are young. They're playing against young guys similar to their age, so we can't compare it and expect the same results as senior football of older guys. So, like you said, if they're second place, 4 points of first place, doesn't really matter how much they conceded.
Yeah, I agree. Luca, anything to add here?
I just want to follow up on the stats because I think it was 1 or 2 podcasts ago where I had mentioned Montero as if we're going to pick 3 upcoming coaches as a possibility. Montero was my third choice, and I say third as in he was my last of the 3. Why? Again, yes, he's not perfect. I don't think he's the best option, but he's already in the club. He knows this team. I mean, if there's one of the 20 players on the planet who knows this club, Montero is probably one of them. Sure, he's a defender himself, and he's got a team that leaks goals. But I think, and as a defender myself, I think those days are over. The pragmatic sit back and hope to concede less than the other team, that ain't happening anymore. Modern football, I think, and I know we don't like this topic, but from what I've seen, it comes down to how many goals can you put in the opponent's net, not how many can you stop. And I know Serie A is also different. Max Allegri would say otherwise. But for me, Montero is doing something beautiful with that team. Just look where they stand. I think that's very positive. And more than that, I can't say more. I'm not saying he's our best option, but if we really are going, let's say penalty-wise, in the direction we think, he is someone that needs to be considered 100%.
I'm not using this whole thing. So the discussion I was having was more just towards the stats and how quickly people can change and take something that should be a positive, especially for what the U19s are doing, and switch it to a negative based on something they've leaned to kind of be programmed to believe about defensive football. So I think everybody in the chat was kind of along the same pages. Montero, for me, it's the same as Pirlo. Pulling him into the senior squad, unless in a dire emergency, is not something that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Montero needs to continue to work with the U19s, in my honest opinion. Let's have him there. Let's let him continue to build himself up, which is exactly what should have happened with Andrea Pirlo. Pirlo and him getting rushed into that whole thing. The whole thing was a mess, and I actually feel bad for him and hope that one day he could return in some capacity. And I still don't understand that. How come he couldn't just
continue,
go back to what he was originally set up to do. So the whole thing was wild. But
Just to know, how many did the other teams around them concede?
You'd have to look it up. I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, I'm asking Al because he might have that still.
no, this is a Juventus stat. I don't actually have the other stats on the
You could probably look it up
U19s.
quickly, Omar.
You could look it up in the tables and see where the other teams stand.
If anybody's in the chat right now and can look that up while we're chatting, bring it up in the next few minutes.
So
Joe
yeah,
there, so
if you
Joe
want
get
to
to
pull
work.
up the U19 table and see where the other teams are, we can. But
Either way, look, if we go back, Al, this is just a touch. Pirlo also had a very defensive, I'm going to say lazy team, but the amount of goals we put in that season, guys, I mean, yeah, the stats weren't like we finished fourth. We still got 2 cups. So it wasn't a terrible season considering. But what did we say at the end of that season? And I've beaten that horse dead at this point. I've said it. After this season with Pirlo, the only thing that needs to change is a little more like solidity in the back. That's all that we needed. We concede a little bit less and continue that goal scoring that we had. We have a great team. That's all
Joe
we need to do.
Cappuccino's got a point in here, just saying it depends on personnel too. The makeup of teams is not going to be the same right across the board. At some point, you have to look at who you have, who's playing, and what you're doing. Because again, this is one of the things I've had with this Juve. We're trying to recreate this defensive shutdown squad. Maybe we just don't have the guys, and maybe we're better off to run and gun with the offensive talent we had. But let's see here.
Yeah, but like you said, Al, defending is not for young guys. I think it was Omer that said it. Oh,
Hey.
Oh my goodness.
So what
Did you get
Ants just
fired?
kind
in
of
the
decided to
background?
jump in here, looking a little grumpy.
What
But
are,
that's all
what are we
good. Good
talking
morning.
about here?
I heard
I'm having a pretty busy morning, but hey, I'm here now.
He's here
I
now.
made it. Got the
Fantastic.
sweater on, got the hair combed,
Match
washed my
day.
face a little bit.
We're just talking about the U19s. Their track record right now, it's looking good, but people still trying to break it down some out there because they're leaking goals. But I said ultimately, who cares?
They are leaking goals.
Based on what they're doing. Who cares? It ultimately
cares?
comes down to where you stand and the
Yeah,
results.
Yeah.
Lecce considered 12 and they're below them, so doesn't matter.
Tony, you remember being 19?
Now,
I do not.
Pellegrini deal. We're going to move on to the Pellegrini deal. Going to Lazio. This had some questions raised in the team chat because
We need Lou. We need
thinking,
Lou.
how can we not maybe look at him coming in to help us? Last year, he was better than Sandro. However, are we going to go back to a back four? Are we not?
Mute your mic. What are you doing?
Here's the thing. Pellegrini, who knows what the hell happened? It was never even a thought for him to come back to Juventus. Juventus never even considered him coming back at all. So, bottom line, especially Lucci, he was never in Juve's thought process whatsoever of coming back.
Was it
Yeah,
Dan or was it
he
Lou?
was probably Juve's thought process as much as Luca's in my day-to-day thought process. He just wasn't in there.
So like what?
No.
Once at like 3 o'clock, you think about me?
Someone doesn't want him there. Like it's
Yes,
obvious.
it's true.
We know
Pirlo
who
shipped
it
him
is.
out on loan. He barely played under Allegri. Sarri kicked him out on loan. Like
Yeah,
now
but
it's gone.
Sadi was.
And we
okay.
don't. The fact that we don't have any left backs, except for Sandro, which is half a person at this moment, and we still don't want him back and looking to buy someone else is just says it all.
What are we
The
even
whole
talking
thing
about?
is funny and does
Mhm.
still shine a light on the whole mismanagement thing because you go from taking Pellegrini, who, and this says a lot about Sandro now, but Sandro as a third CB, sure, he can help, he can get the job done, went up. As a left back, he got dusted, and Pellegrini was actually better than him in the last season. But we moved Pellegrini on to get Cambiasso, but then immediately put Cambiasso on loan. And still are left with the same player who was actually outplayed by the one that you sent to Germany. So, in a sense, it's still a big, it just shines a light on the mismanagement that's
It's a
been taking
shit
place
show.
and how
It's a shit show.
confused we look as a team. So, to Lucci's point about the Pellegrini thing, why wouldn't we look at him? You could see that too, because if you're looking in the Mercado for like a Joachim Mele or you're looking for at Karsdorp, for Christ's sake, but you've got a fullback that was part of your group that played better than Sandro, who might end up being your fullback if you go to a back four. You could see why maybe, just maybe, you think about it. But whatever happened behind the scenes, Pellegrini is an afterthought for Juventus and should be for the fans too.
Okay, someone help me properly pronounce the young man's name. Is it Kiwior?
Kiwior.
Right. Did you hear his agent today? Oh, Juventus was in the mix, and then they lost 15 points. So who's to say Pellegrini was like, I'm not going back to that dumpster fire.
No,
right?
You
guys start getting ready for that too.
No, he's also a Lazio fan.
Yeah.
It's like his child.
Yeah, he's that
as well.
He pushed for Lazio even before
And
Frankfurt. I think.
clearly,
yeah. But straight up, Juve has no plans of Pellegrini. Whatever the hell happened, it was done. It was done and dusted when they sent him away to Germany.
And that's fine.
Now, Paul Pogba. This is the saga that continues and continues. And obviously,
this should be fun.
Pogba will not be in today. Okay. And of course, it's World War III out there for Paul and Juventini and everything. It is firing up. I've got my thoughts on that. It's frustrating as hell. But again, I cannot stress this enough. We have seen this with Giovanni Andreini, who is now taking over the whole head of the fitness and rehabilitation pros. Like, he looks after all that. You saw it with all the guys as they started to get back.
Mm-hmm.
He has slowed it that this is not another injury.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't. It is slowing things down yet again because he has some discomfort and some minor pain. Okay, so again, he's just immediately, this guy has erred strongly on the side of caution. This is a big difference. If we look to the years previously, we haven't just struggled with injuries this year. We all know that. Bonucci coming back, making himself available way too early, got hurt. You saw that documented on the All or Nothing. Chiellini, multiple times through his career, did the same thing, re-aggravated his injury. Dybala on multiple occasions rushed himself back in, got rushed in, injury, got labeled as injury prone, whatever he's done, and roasted, and the team continues to struggle without key guys. This guy comes in, and we've seen it switched completely. We saw it with Chiesa. Nobody's going to run out there and yell, sell Chiesa, all right? Because this guy is slowing him down. This guy is erring on the side of caution. It is not a new injury. It sucks because we're in February and the guy hasn't played a competitive minute. And I get that.
We're in February?
However, just
Jesus.
again, relax. You got to judge this guy when he plays. And all these guys getting their hopes and dreams up on this contract being terminated, that ain't happening. Okay? It doesn't work that way.
4-year deal plus one?
4-year deal option.
What about
Guys,
the bonuses?
your thoughts on the Pogba thing? Do you see it like me? Do you have different thoughts? Obviously, it's frustrating, but
I think the bonuses is a new kicker.
Well,
Luca, you start with this one.
They could
Luca,
be performance-based, and I think Omer is going to say the same thing. But then again, guys, contract is a contract. If it stipulates that if I play 50 games, I get 500,000, you're going to get that. There's no, we're just going to cancel it. No, you don't just rip up a contract of that value. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, but what is the criteria for his bonuses?
That's what we don't know.
What, breathing, showing up for practice, like he hasn't done anything.
If he was smart,
making it to the Champions League doesn't look like that.
But that's
a Juve problem.
Yes, exactly.
That's a Juve problem. I'm not blaming Pogba. They offered
Yeah.
the contract, he signed it, it's fine.
We probably did.
But it could also be team bonuses. If the team gets to a certain point in this position, everybody gets a bonus. Or he has in his contract, if the team gets to a certain point, I get this money.
Yeah.
Again,
we should ask
that's not
our
on
sources.
He must have signed a bonus.
He definitely signed something bonus related, guys. 100%. Player like that.
A lot of players have what's called roster bonuses. It's just a way of, hey, I'm still on the roster.
But the way we're
X
performing,
period of time,
So
I get
basically has that. 100%.
Right.
But
yeah.
But what?
Pizza.
But
You
what
guys living off
bonuses?
the
Like
bonuses.
the team is doing awful. Who deserves bonuses? What are the
Nobody.
criteria for the bonuses? Finishing 10th? They
Yeah,
will
but
get the
again,
bonuses?
who knows? And that's a Juve problem. Like,
No, I'm not
the
blaming
people
Pogba.
that are wanting this contract terminated, do you think anybody would have said, we hit February, he hasn't played one competitive minute? Everybody would take the bet that, yeah, of course he's going to play one competitive minute before February. Here we are.
Lucci would have taken that bet.
Yeah.
The agenda is strong there. Look,
I do think when we renegotiated this, because
strong.
we knew coming in he might have been a little bit more on the injury prone side. I think there are a lot of bonus based, I think, parts of his contract. We don't know, but I'm going to assume that our director at the time did include a lot of that because they knew and they didn't want a repeat of past players. So
one
Raf's been on that
competitive minute in February. Take that bet.
What are the odds on that, Tony?
It would have been a lot of chicoria, as
Yeah.
Anthony likes to say, that we'd probably put down otherwise. But look, the
5,000.
thing is, anybody getting their hopes up, Juve's trending right now, okay? And when Juve trends, the headlines go wild. And you knew when Pogba gets the headline yesterday that he's going to be out for the Lazio match, probably in for Salernitana, which is on Tuesday. You knew somebody was going to jump on it and start all this crap about, they're going to terminate contract. No, they can't. Okay, so they can't terminate the contract. Bonuses are bonuses, whatever. Who knows what Juve set up? But I mean, do we have to look very far about Juve's contracts to think that, of course, they're not going to put insurance policies on themselves? I mean, we have the exact opposite. We have options going out extended for like guys like Sandro, for Christ's sake, and Quad. So this is a Juve problem.
To be fair, no one does it. Like Real Madrid has Eden Hazard and Gareth Bale on the bench for 3 seasons, paying them salaries and barely playing. It's not mainly a Juve problem. It's just players don't sign those type of contracts that rule them out and can terminate their contract if they're injured too much. So I'll go easy on Juve here.
Yeah, for sure. The whole thing sucks because, he's just hasn't been able to get in there, and this team could really use him. But again, like all the players right across the board, all you could do is judge a guy when he finally steps on the pitch. Hopefully he can.
We don't have enough fucking problems at the moment. Like, this is what people need to focus on. Like, come on.
We got to rein it in now. In terms of the whole investigation thing and everything, obviously we know where it stands. We're expecting another 15 to 20 point penalty. They're going to try and relegate Juve based on the point. If it's up to me and my general thought process, what I think is going to happen, they're going to try to penalize through the points rather than coming out with this relegation that would be seemingly way too harsh over something that they already know is intensely illogical. The salary case, however, that is the most condemning, and that one's very, very difficult for Juventus. That's where I fear we're going to struggle and lose. I still, like I said, until details come forward, I'm having a tough time right now piecing together the sporting relation on that. Even though I think there is some foul play there, I don't see the sporting correlation in Italy. However,
where they take naps in the afternoon.
Confidence that they're confident they're going to overturn the first 15 points. We will see.
I am not confident in that.
I'm not holding my breath.
It's Italy. As Anthony said, they sleep still.
If I were to ever say, I haven't used the word book it in a while. I'm not going to use it here, but I'm pretty close to saying that we're not getting those 15 points back. A lot of people do not win appeals. I don't see it.
I think we do, and the Super League just won their appeal against UEFA and FIFA.
It wasn't in Italy, though.
It wasn't in Italy, yeah.
Everything is so ass backwards, guys. Like I said this the other day, it's going to be the opposite. These 15 are going to stick, but the salary case, that's going to pass.
Well, we don't.
That's how unsure I am.
It's procedure that you're battling on the appeal. I mean, you don't have the details. We don't have the details. We don't know, but what they're sticking to, and when you start hearing the concepts Juve's fighting, it's a little bit more than procedure that they're actually fighting and counteracting.
What was it again, Al? illogicality,
They're
They're
lack
going
of
for
motivation,
illogicality. They're going for lack of motivation and lack
and
of
lack
foundation.
of foundation.
But
But
making these things up as they go.
so it's a little bit more
That's
than
what they wrote.
procedure that they're
know.
actually appealing and fighting. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. In an ideal world, what I'd like to see is obviously clear of everything. But should penalties arise, maybe, just maybe, JP Morgan says, you know what? Hey, Super League's back on. Okay, let's fund that instead of Serie A. Maybe the prize money is better and teams want to jump into that.
Could you
Maybe we
imagine?
can say, hey, no, you guys already have a monopoly to the Prem teams. Start up a little Super League and say, stay to Serie A and watch them
Okay.
crumble. That would be an
Let's
ideal.
Absolutely, and that's the way. That's the way to do it. Like there is no other way to save the Premier League from taking over the entire football scenery. The Super League is the only solution that will give balance and will take fans away from Champions League, because no one would watch it if it would be just the same as the FA Cup. It will be all English teams.
Yeah.
That's the only lifeline that we can imagine that will save those teams, and those teams should work together, like joining, bring the teams from Portugal, the teams from Scotland, everyone who suffers from the Premier League superiority, and we got ourselves a game.
That would be the only way to do it. Otherwise, the English teams just keep getting ahead. Anthony?
The ruling, I guess if anyone missed it, it said that teams cannot be penalized for pursuing a Super League or for pursuing, like in the past or in the future. I'm not sure if it's the past or the future. I'm not quite sure. But UEFA and FIFA still have to sign off on them joining another league, because you can't just join another league. I think it's just we can't be penalized for our past wrongdoings in trying to create the Super League. I think there's still hurdles if you want to create it.
But they were also ruled to not be able to interfere with another league and starting up. So that's a tough one, because we don't know enough to say that a team can't leave the league they're in to join the Super League. Because in theory, if you can't interfere with the league and what they're doing, then that opens the door to, a team could switch to that league. Because in turn, if you say, no, you can't, you are in turn interfering with them starting.
Do you think the Super League's dead though, based on what's going on with Juve now?
I think it's got a long way to go to get fired up again. It's got a long way to go. It needs a major investment, but JP Morgan could offer that. So it's interesting that this comes a week after we hear the reports that JP Morgan's looking at Serie A. Obviously, the Court of Appeals in Madrid said that UEFA and FIFA cannot interfere. Who knows, man? Who knows? It's far from fired up and back on per se, but it's a nice pushback that Sefrin and UEFA needed, because that had to happen. So the fact that that court has said, hey, you guys have a monopoly, you cannot interfere with this, is actually big and something that needed to happen.
Yeah, it goes even like beyond like the footballing side. It becomes a much more political thing, because then UEFA will pile pressure on the FIGC because they can't do it by themselves. So they'll try to penalize Juve through the FIGC and Italy, and Elkan will work his magic and the people he knows, behind the scenes in Italy, and becomes just a political thing that has nothing to do with football. That's what might make it work.
Yeah.
But we're a long way. Yeah, like you said, it's not, and all of this doesn't happen without Juve. JP Morgan, all that, without Juve, it ain't happening.
Yeah. Now, Anthony, there's a question in there that said, when will we know if we get points reinstated? Do you want to address that?
Well, I think we officially submit the appeal documents? I think they were prepared yesterday. I think they were submitted yesterday. So they have 30 days, I believe, to submit it. And then I don't think there's a timeline for them to actually go in front of a judge to present the appeal. I heard something about the end of February, and then God knows, it could take another month to hear from there. So it could be March. And then March 27th is the day that the Plus Venza hearing is in court. So March is going to be the month. I think people should just kind of buckle up and just, batten down the hatches until March, because there's not going to be much, there. Put your seatbelt on, Luca. It's not going to be much till March.
Yeah.
Just, you got to wait.
Going to be drawn out, and we should see, like I said, that salary case come forth pretty soon anyways, with some penalizations. And then again, they'll have time to appeal that and start to fight there. So
it's on life support, buddy.
Yeah, it could be a reality, but it's far from it right now. So far from back on, but a good sign, and a sign that was needed. And Omer painted a good picture there. So,
but if there was a time to ever start it without English teams, it's now. Based on what they spent in January, there's enough vitriol and hate going on out there about the English teams. Like, hey, we need something to compete with these guys. Well, you got the Super League, but there's no way. I don't see it.
Yeah, and. So Rocco's saying can't see Prem teams going to a Super Bowl. Why would they? Well, if it works out and the numbers are what was originally kind of projected there, it's massive prize money. So you would think they would want in because obviously they would just get stronger and stronger. It would be us that want them out of it. So again,
if it happens, it happens without the English teams.
These are the same fans that were crying when the Super League began and were killing football, and now are losing their minds because their team just spent an absurd amount of money to essentially stack their roster while everybody else is sitting there. Leagues are sitting there spending a fraction of one of their deals. A fraction of one of Chelsea's deals is essentially what the other league spent in a winter mercado. So, the hypocrisy is insane right now. But we move on to Juve Lazio. So Juve Lazio Coppa Italia today. Now, with the penalties and everything that's going on, Coppa Italia is big now because this is your shot into the Europa League. So, hey, a relegated team all of a sudden Europa League, maybe, who knows, Cremonese knocking off Roma yesterday. That could happen with them if they keep trying to push us. Hey, I don't want to think like that, but Coppa Italia becomes big for Juve, and this is a big game. Obviously, they have Lazio to deal with today. Should we be able to get the job done, then we have Inter. Okay, and then we'd have to face Merda in the semi. So, again, it becomes big now. I want to get your guys' thoughts before we actually break down the details of this match, some key stats and everything. Do you think this penalty, it should ignite these players because the Coppa Italia is now massive? Max Allegri needs to be on the front foot. We have to focus on this. Just as important as obviously the Europa League, but Europa League will be much more difficult for Juventus. Coppa Italia has become big because that's your in to Europa and at least guaranteeing yourself in that competition. So, again, do you think the points have killed us? Do you think this team can turn it around, or is the confidence dead? Ant, why don't you start us off as we get ready for this one?
Okay, so I've been in a company, I've worked for a company that's had massive restructuring. Hang on. And when you have uncertainty, it really filters down to the ground level employees. And what it comes down to is the leaders. If you have good leaders, you can kind of work your way through the storms. I think Allegri is that guy to kind of off the field work through that. Didn't really show up on the weekend, but it's really going to come down to the players, man. It's going to be tough for the players to shake all that off. You're staring at another 20 points. They're reading the news. They're reading all this stuff. Do they care? You're going to lose a little bit. Do I care? I'm probably not going to be here next year. I'm going to be sold. I'm going to go somewhere else. All that stuff is going on in their heads. So you really need your manager, guys are going to be here next year, like Chiesa, Locatelli, Danilo, Bonucci, Pedin. You need these guys to hopefully step up and say, listen, this is a big game today. We need this one. Those are the guys I'm looking at today to see if they can carry us through for today. Need it. They absolutely need it.
Omer.
Yeah, mentality-wise, it's different because it's a one-off game and it has nothing to do with the standings in the league. So when you approach this game as a team, you can say, "Yeah, we just need to win." That's it. It's not like looking at the table and saying, "Oh, we're 13th. We're so far from a place in Europe." So they basically can just have to win one game. It's different mentality aspect to a league game, and they
That's
can
true.
do it. They can do it. We've seen teams that when we played Villarreal, they were shit in their league, like seventh place, but in the Champions League, a different story. So it happens all the time. It doesn't have to be the best team that win it, and we can do something here. I'm waiting to see just how they approach it with this new lineup that's out. Maybe it will be better, but it's a question. We could also bring in the same mentality from the league, and Lazio will take advantage of that.
Yeah, we'll get to the lineups and stuff. Luca, anything to add to where this mentality's at? Do you think they could turn it around again?
Obviously, I think they can. Will they? I mean, I don't know. If they do, I will be content. If they don't, I won't be surprised. Because again, we've mentioned every reason why they could be and why they shouldn't be. So it's going to come down to what they internally want out of this. As Anthony said, if these guys aren't here next year and they know that already, what's pushing them to really perform besides, oh, this is still a cup to win? Like, that's really all they have. So thankfully, this is not Serie A. If this was Serie A, I don't see the motivation. But again, this is a cup. They should always be motivated. And this is a Lazio team that's doing well, so they should be, on their toes. This isn't Monza. Like, when you go into a Monza game, their mentality is, oh, we should beat these guys. Lazio, it's going to be a fight. So I think there's that anticipation that a big game is on the sideline, is ready to happen. You're excited for it. You're pumped for it. So I think there's a very good possibility of these guys coming in motivated today.
So I think there's two things going for Juventus today. One, we've done 8 in a row before. I know people want to play off that 8 in a row like it was nothing. Name me another team that went 8 in a row in their league, no matter who they're playing, without conceding a goal. People keep downplaying that like it's nothing. Like, that to me is crazy. Like, crazy that you'd even think that. But Lazio was in that run. We beat Lazio in that run and kept a clean sheet. So if there was ever time to start that sort of run again, it's now, because, Omar, you and I were talking about this yesterday. Their next 2, 4, 6, 7 games is the time to do it. I know 2 of those are Europa League games, but the competition that we have, this is the time to go on a run. If you're going to turn the season around or pick it up again, it's got to start today.
The chat seems to think, the majority of the chat seems to feel like it's too big for this team to overcome right now, and feels that a lot of the players have kind of given up just from the consensus of reading some of these. But for me, this is the thing. This is where Max has to step it up. And Max, there's a comment in there that he's going to be under immense pressure. Of course he is. There's nobody behind Max. We have no management team in place. There was a report today, which is so true, that there is no reference point constantly at Contenasa other than Max Allegri. Like, this guy's facing this thing on his own. So I can sympathize with Max on this front, that what he's trying to do here, and the 15-point deduction is completely out of Max's hands, but it is on his plate and his plate solely, which is absolutely brutal and hard to not sympathize with him. Okay. Regardless of what we think about how he approaches games and all that, this is a difficult situation for any guy to have to face, which is outside of his control. What he needs to do, what needs to happen, is he needs to stop with this trust thing that he has in players and whatever, and preferences. What he needs to do, because the only way you're going to have a shot, in my personal opinion, of getting yourself out of this is getting yourself out of your comfort zone, Max Allegri, and you need to start leaning on the guys that aren't thinking in a sense that Anthony says it would be easy for a lot of them too, which is, I'm not going to be here next season. I'm not going to be here. It's done. It's dusted. You need to lean on the guys like Chiesa. You need to lean on the guys like Locatelli, that when he comes in for Paredes, he tries everything in his power to try and help turn the tides. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, regardless, he showed you that initiative. Max needs to lean on those guys. He needs to, and if it means scrapping as much rotation as he would like, then that's what you need to do. But you need those guys to lean on, and you need them to push forward the other guys in the locker room. They need to start becoming leaders, maybe ahead of their years, because if some of those guys you thought weren't ready to lead, now you need them to be, because these are the guys that are supposed to be the pillars of Juve for years to come. Now they are getting thrown into the fire, and we will see if they can do it. But those are the guys you need to lean on. So Locatelli, Chiesa, they need to pick up Fagioli, they need to pick up Maretti, and they need to go. But that's what needs to happen. And the dead weight and all this shit and the guys that you see getting minutes that don't need to be, get the fuck out of there. I'm done.
I
That's what
disagree
he
with
needs to
Anthony.
do. Omer?
I disagree with Anthony
Fair enough.
What did Anthony say?
about the eight games run of not conceding.
I do
like-
too. but
Yeah,
we're
it
not
was
gonna get into
shit.
that.
Total luck, fluke.
We're not gonna,
No, but you need to divide it to before the World Cup and after the World Cup. Before the World Cup, yeah, the wins were convincing. Inter, Lazio barely won against Lecce, but it was fine. We had a lot of luck. After the World Cup, purely luck. Udinese and even who was it? Cremonese. We could have lost to those teams easily. It was only
But we
luck that
didn't.
we didn't lose. We didn't. Yeah, we got lucky in both in the 90th minute and found the goal. Fine,
Luck has
but
nothing to do with it.
but you don't go on that run and then lose 5-1 to Napoli and say, yeah, oh, that was a fluke. The match against Napoli was much more a reality check than the 8 games prior.
Okay, they're the number one team in the league, so I'm not putting a lot of stock in that.
I'm going to build off what Al said before. I thought about this recently, and everyone keeps saying we've got to be heavy on rotation. We got 3 different, leagues or whatever you want to refer to them as. If I look back to either, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before that, the Milan squad that was just literally 11 guys, consistently the same 11 guys for every game, every competition. I said that team would burn out at one point, and at the end, and then they did, but they still kept such consistency. And whenever they had a guy out or injured, it was a one sub situation. So it was the same 9 or 10 guys at the base. Now, fitness-wise, Juventus not maybe able to do that, but if Max has these 9 or 10 guys as a base, don't change them. Like Locatelli should not be subbed in just because you think he needs to be rested for bullshit. He's the best mid, keep him in. If he falls dead, he won't complain because he loves this team and he'll do it.
Debatable, he gets subbed after that.
But my point is, we need to stop having different formations, every damn game. It's like 20 this season. Stick to one, keep it consistent. These guys need something to rely on right now. We can't keep switching the little tiny details every game. I think it's too much, especially for the young guys who are new to this. Keep it simple. That's
I know
Keep it simple,
Lucci
Steven.
is going to get integrated the minute he's healthy. Same as the Chilio.
Yeah, 100%. We know. I could bet my house on it. Even though I don't own a house.
That is worrying. It's worrying. It's the squad management, the way we play each game, the formation stuff. It's just throw everything on the wall and see what sticks. But there is no, we don't know what our best 11 is because we haven't seen a consistent 11 playing more than one game.
But
a lot of it is injury too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of squad management.
But I'm just saying, again, there's some in the live chat that are saying, I can't sympathize for him because he's made mediocrity a norm on the pitch and everything like that. Hey, I'm not saying you need to feel sympathetic to Max because of his tactics or whatever or how he plays, but he's been through the ringer this year, okay? And all this 15 points, whatever, has us questioning everything and everyone and putting them in adverse situations that is out of their control. So it is hard, even for a player that loves Juve, that wants to stay at Juve, whatever. Tell me you're not going to wake up and be like, Jesus, we went from second, third, whatever, to fucking 12th, like that, for nothing that we did on the pitch. That is demoralizing. So now all these guys are put to the metal. we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like Lazio today, they're coming in good form, unbeaten in 5 games. Sarri obviously is going to want to beat Juve. Was with us one season, won the Scudetto, was removed of his duties, not even given a Mercato. Look, they're in good form. They're coming into this one good. Juve, hey, we know where we're at. We're struggling, okay? We've got 1 victory in our last 4 games across all competitions. Lazio, like I said, unbeaten in 5 games. Lazio has kept 11 clean sheets in the first half of Serie A for the first time in 50 years. They've got Milinkovic-Savic playing great, and Juve is going to again be without Pogba. Immobile should be back for Lazio too. Their probable lineup, 4-3-3, no surprises. Maximiano, Lazzari, Patrick, Romagnoli, Marusic, Milinkovic-Savic, Cataldi, Luis Alberto, Anderson, Immobile, Zaccagni is what's predicted to be up there. Now, during our 8-game streak there, Lazio was one of the teams we defeated. That was a good half of football from Juve, enough to get the job done. Still, some individual brilliance pulled us through with Lazio too, but for the most part, was a good game pulled by Juve. What do we expect to see out of Juve today? Well, Perin, Danilo, Bremer, Sandro, Quadrado, Fagioli, Locatelli, Rabiot, and Kostic, with Chiesa and Vlahovic being up top. Now, being labeled as your 3-5-2. However, it could, in some form, work out to potentially, well, you could see a 4-3-3, you could see a 4-4-2. So yet to be determined, because Max has left it open-ended, saying in a couple pressers ago, we are not set in stone on our setup, and it could change in the future. You guys, how do you feel about this one today, going into it before we get our predictions? Do you feel confident about it? Are you thinking we're going to take the L today? What are the thoughts?
Omer?
Hard to feel confident, based on everything that happened in January. But still, it's a one-off game. Anything can happen. 1 red card, 1 penalty, and it throws the whole thing into a loop, and anything can happen. I think it's actually better for us that Immobile is playing, while he is a good striker in the league. When he doesn't play, they use Pedro, Felipe Anderson, Zaccagni, and these guys are mobile. They're moving all over the place, and that's where Juve have a problem with mobile attacks that pulls them out of position all the time. Immobile is very central. He's always in the area. He's easier to mark, and that's the only downside I see for this Lazio team, because besides that, they're playing phenomenal, and their last run has been without Immobile.
Yeah.
They're full of confidence, and they just look good. Sarri got them ticking. I pray to God we don't concede a goal from Pellegrini today.
It's happening.
Yeah, that might make me break my TV.
So watch
regarding the
TV.
formation, can we honestly say something about it anymore? Do we actually know what's going to happen? It's not about formation. It's about attitude. I want to see them coming out the gate, knowing it's a one-off game. You have to win it. You don't get a second chance or getting the points back like in the league. Go out there, get the win through mentality, pushing forward. That's what I'm expecting to see. If you're coming in defensively, we'll concede. We'll have to chase our own tails again, and we'll lose.
Well, let's talk about the lineup. Are there any changes any of you guys would make from that lineup?
Rugani for Sandro.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it, Luca?
The rest are default, like right wing is default, left wing is default, midfield. Not many options.
Anthony, any changes you'd make?
Who are the 3 at the back? I was texting somebody.
Danilo, Bremer, Sandro.
The Brazilians.
Leave it.
I would have gone Rugani for Sandro too, I think.
I think, honestly, if I'm looking at that, the only change I'd probably make is I wouldn't start Kostic.
Yeah, that too.
Probably start Illing Jr.
Yeah. It's that left
just
side
because
that
I think Kostic has been abysmal since the World Cup return.
Right.
I'd say predictable.
Predictable. That's a good word, yeah.
Extremely predictable.
But wait.
And that might be an understatement. But I think Illing Jr. has done enough to warrant more of a go. Coppa Italia, even if it is heightened importance due to the fact that it could be an in to Europa League. Illing Jr. is who I would play there. Quadrado, I think we're going to see the same Quadrado in terms of frustration, front third of the pitch. However,
can't wait.
He does, from what we saw and everybody that was kind of used there and whatnot, he does a better job defensively than the others did there. So maybe you push up the wing from Illing Jr., but we need to get the middle involved. Rabiot, Locatelli, Fagioli has been our best three. So I do like that. And Chiesa and Vlahovic, let's see. But Vlahovic, even if he's just come back, it's very important for him to have a strong showing. It's very important for him to have a strong showing because we are going to be leaning on Milik is out for 40 days roughly. And Moise Kean is going to be a mixed bag. His numbers are good based on the minutes that he's gotten, but there's a lot of gameplay in there where you're wanting a hell of a lot more. Vlahovic is going to be important, so we got to see.
Here's an interesting question. This name keeps popping up. I don't know where his best spot is.
Oh, Sule? I can answer that. I wanted to touch this. Can I, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Take it easy. With Milik out now, and the fact that we're still doing two forwards as we're doing, from that Monza Coppa game, Sule as a second striker is where he needs to be. And now that we're down a striker, I think he will get more time. It's unfortunate that Chiesa's there today because I don't think that's his best spot. But Sule as that second striker, he played well with Keane right behind him. He's very mobile. He's moving in the spaces. So I think that's something I was hoping to see today. But what I'm going to reiterate that's important is that in these Coppa games, we've seen a lot of them go into overtime this season. A lot. So these starting players, I don't think Vlahovic has more than 60, 70 minutes in his legs. So there's a chance that our subs not only come on and make an impact, but they'll be on for a while too if we go into extra time. So these starting players, I don't think are detrimental to how the game is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Sule's got to be higher up the pitch. For me, the Illing Jr. thing too, I should state 4-3-3. I think maybe you could switch it up and go 4-3-3. I think Juve is probably a little intimidated by Lazio's midfield and thinking we're going to submit control. That's one of the main reasons we switched to this 3-5-1-1. We'll see. Chiesa and Vlahovic, we also haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it. Yeah.
So I don't really know. How is Chiesa going to interpret that role different to how Di Maria did and everything? It's going to be interesting to see him play that role. But interesting isn't what we're going for. We need to bank on it. We need to go. And Lazio is going to be coming in here hot. We'll see if Juve can get it done. Let's get to predictions.
Positivity right here.
G3-1 Lazio. Okay, let's get to our predictions. Final score, 2 tiebreakers, and then we're going to get to storm the barn as we have a little bit of time for that session. Okay, so I could kick things off.
Please do.
If you guys want.
So as long as you don't take our...
And I'm sorry to do this, everybody.
Uh-oh. Negativity.
I think it's going to be 2-1 Lazio.
Oh, you mother.
You are a son of a bitch.
I was going to take the same one. Tony, were you going to take the same
I think it's going to be 2-1 Lazio. I'd love to be,
get out.
I always do that and whatnot, but today, honestly.
Can you kick him out? I think
it's 2-1 Lazio.
What is Raph getting mad about? You probably predict a 4-0 Lazio.
Come out here. I'm always optimistic on match days and everything. And you know what? Maybe I'm doing this to flip the script, okay? Let's flip the script. I called the 2-1 Lazio. Juve has the game of their life and bags 3, and we win, okay? So let's go with that. Tiebreakers.
It's a peer pressure, Jake.
I think you're going to see let's go off the grid
today,
here. Maybe we'll say Juve gets 7 corner kicks, and I'm going to go with Chiesa will bag our goal. Chiesa bags our goal. 7 corner kicks. There you go. Who's up next?
I'm still writing.
Omar.
And quoting quotes with Luca.
I think that game has a draw written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if 1-1 or 2-2. I'm going to go with 2-2.
Okay.
I think Chiesa and Vlahovic get the goals. And what's the third one? Let's go with something weird.
Something weird. Pellegrini winner.
No. I don't
Yes,
want
I
to call
would.
out the winner. It's a draw. I don't know what happens
He
after
gets on that
extra
One more
time.
Guys, just scoring.
tiebreaker. Let's go.
One more tiebreaker.
What?
I'll get back to you. Luca, go.
Okay,
Okay.
Luca, let's go.
I say 1-1, and then Lazio takes it in overtime. For us, I see Keane scoring. And tiebreaker, I'm going to say possession. It's going to be 58% for Lazio.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say 2 yellow cards.
That's you got your tiebreakers in, you're good.
Okay, good. Good.
Anth.
3-2 win for Juventus. It's going to happen
Nice.
in extra time, right? Listen, Chiesa is going to be the man today. I don't know who's going to score, but there will be one red card.
He's going to be the man.
There will be
One
one
red.
own goal,
Oh, yeah?
and Juventus will have 5 exact corner kicks.
Hold on. 1 red, 1 own goal.
Pause. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And Juve will have 5 corner kicks.
That's
Okay.
tiebreakers, no?
That red is going to be from 2 yellows,
Okay.
not a straight red.
Okay,
all right.
I'm calling a goal from set piece. 1 for you.
Okay, that's fair.
There you go.
Vlahovic comes
Okay.
back with a banger. Why not?
Okay. Predictions are in. Everybody, let's take a look at live chat where we stand here. So
Raf
obviously
said
Bikram G
6-0.
kicked things off with the 3-1 Lazio. Remo
Love the
saying 2-1
positivity.
Juve. Fajoli and Keane 15 attempts, 6 on
That's not
target. Dell saying 3-0 Lazio. Hey, let's get that reverse
Reverse
thing going.
mentality.
Okay, so
Oh, they're not reversing anything.
3-1
They're just saying
Lazio. Okay.
Jesus.
Okay.
Where's Raf?
2-0 Juve from Mohammed. Okay, let's go. Let's go. We got 6-0 Lazio from Raf. Yeah.
I don't think we're that bad.
Take it easy, Raf. Take it easy. We will get Storm the Barn now. Omar probably didn't like some of your predictions in the live chat, so decided he was going to bounce.
He's going to be
Now,
back.
let's check things out. Storm the Barn, we got one coming in here already for Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances Juve fails miserably in all competitions this season? And if we do fail, what are the if they fail miserably, we can probably kiss away star players. We're already hearing the news of Vlahovic if we don't make European
he's
competition,
He's
probably
gone.
being sold, not from anything other than the fact that we would need money. So the repercussions are clear. Serie B, if you get relegated on points, if you fail miserably, like how miserably are we talking here? But players, we already heard from a guy like Kiwior that the points thing affected where everything was going on. But I think that was also misinterpreted. I think that there was interest, and what he meant by then the point deduction hit is Juve put a freeze on everything, including deals, even if they were small in fees, because obviously there's so much uncertainty. Why would they start spending when you don't actually know what's going on? But what are the chances Juve fails miserably in all competitions? Sure, it could happen. It could happen to any team that all of a sudden they start to fail. Sure,
Pretty
chances
high
are
odds.
there.
Yeah,
Do
pretty
I
high.
expect it? Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think it's going to actually happen. I think Juve is going to be what we have been this year, which is largely inconsistent, but able to get your victories here and there and maybe string a few games together. That's what I think is going to happen. I think this is the same Juventus that it's been all season. Started off poor, had a little bit of a decent run, and then struggled again, gets a win here and there. We're lost, like Alessandro Del Piero said. This team is lost. Right now, we are in disarray looking for any type of leadership. And that's the truth. And this is one of the reasons I always get on people when they want to knock Danilo so much, because I say he is one leader amongst a team without them. He is the one guy that is a leader that on a team that has none. Wojciech Szczesny has been around this team for how long? You can't call him a leader. He's not a leader.
He's
and
a
that's
beauty.
fine. It's not a knock on Tech, but he's not a leader. Guys that have been around a while are not leaders. Quadrado is not a leader. Sandro
He's a
is
dancer.
not a leader.
No.
Bonucci is not able to lead anymore because he can't play in the important matches. This team has no leaders.
From the bench.
So the guys that we are banking on they're put in the fire now, and they're not supposed to be the leaders immediately. They're supposed to be growing into those roles, but they have nobody right now to even guide them and put them in those roles. It's literally in the fire. We need Chiesa to be a leader now. Locatelli and Fagioli, step it up, kid. Moretti, you're 19. Hey, we're banking on you. It's backwards right now for us, and we have to realize that.
I got a follow-up STB question for you guys.
Can we answer this one first, or
This one that right here?
Go
I
ahead.
think Al kind of wrapped it up, though.
Yeah, no, my thing is like failed miserably in all competitions. Like we were right in the mix. We were in second place. Then there was the point deduction. So is Serie a miserable failure this year?
It's done. It's done.
Can we even judge it this year based on the point deduction? So it's almost a wash, man. Like
No, they
this
ruined
team
it.
mentally would have been a different team because we would have 38 points and we're tied for third and fourth and fifth and sixth. So it's a completely different mentality and team if we don't have that 15-point deduction. So
I don't
can't
know,
really judge
though.
there.
I don't know.
But we
I
don't
know.
we don't
because
know.
we would have probably felt a bit better, but things probably started to spark up again after that Napoli defeat. It was a beatdown.
That was
It was an absolute
beatdown.
beatdown.
Absolutely.
But this team is mentally different with plus 15 points than where they are now. It's a completely different mentality in the locker room. Completely different.
But I
would
still think they
Pellegrini
don't
play
have this
differently?
belief in their football. I think that's what it all comes down to. They are so inconsistent and lost. They don't believe in what they're doing on the pitch.
They
I don't
look
think they do.
lost.
because Max
They look
tells them to
untrained.
defend for 90
Come
minutes.
on,
Omer.
you see the training videos they post. Like, have you ever watched a Man City training video?
They're
What
always,
they're working
always
on?
fun. Always fun.
Luca.
It's fun. It's just they're working on a lot of elements
Simmer
of the
down.
game. Juve comes down to running, the Ronda thing, and maybe some shots on goal and a match among the team. That's it. That's what we're seeing. So it doesn't look like they're working on anything, not on the pitch and not in training, that is related to tactics and movements or anything. How far can it go? Look, this season keeps setting the bar for how low can we go. It's just one disaster after another. It started with Monza, Maccabi Haifa, whatever you want, then Napoli, World Cup. 15 points, that was a knockout punch. Like if you were hanging on the ropes, that was a knockout punch.
There's another one coming.
Omer, you put that question on Twitter yesterday. Was it yesterday where you said,
Yes.
is this Juve's worst season? I said no until you listed everything that happened this season. And then I was like, yep, probably, yeah. This is
I
probably
put-
the worst season ever.
Yes, in response to his tweet, and I said it's not even close for me either.
Yeah, because
When you list everything out,
it's not like looking at stats and position. It's just a general feeling when you watch the team, when you look towards the future, it feels bad. It just feels like there's no passion, there's no leaders, there's no game plan. You can't bank on anything. Wins feels like flukes.
So somebody responded to mine when I put yes, and it's not even close for me. They said, well, how could it be? Because we hit City B. And I said, even in that season, if we go back to 06, you had leaders that stood by the side and you knew they were going to get the job done, pull you back up, and they were going to do it that season. And everything happened so fast in 06. This is so drawn out and it's draining the team. And it's while we are playing. Like 06 was like this. Boom. Happens in the summer during the World Cup. You go back next season. You're in Serie B. You start off with this point deduction. You got to work your way out. But you still had those guys, those leaders that all stayed, got the job done.
And became
we
legends
just
of the
knew that we
game.
would get back, and then you'd go from there. Right now, it's the fact that you're mid-season. It's yet another hurdle for a team that we know is mentally weak. And they're going to struggle, and there's still the uncertainty of what could come. In 06, it was just like boom, boom, done, and you go from there, and it is what it is. Here is like it's drawn out, and we are far from over everybody. When
And
Ant
when,
says
and when you
buckle up,
look
buckle up.
and when you look at the entire, football world right now, like back in 2009, 10, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. But it wasn't, like a long way to get to the top. You just needed to make a bit more money, sign the right coach, and you could flip your entire season and your entire team. Right now, for Juve to get back to the top of European football, we're miles behind Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. I'm not even talking about the Premier League. So it even seems less achievable now than it was back in 2010. That's why I feel this is the worst season I've experienced. I don't know, Anthony might have experienced the football in the 50s, 60s, because he's like 100 years old. I don't know how old he is. So, granted, it's what I felt. Some would say 1991, Gigi
Thank
Manfredi, the champagne football could have been worse. I don't know, and
Thank you,
didn't
Omar.
experience it.
I'm gonna
We
before
won a
we
trophy in
continue
91,
on. I'm gonna
so-
remind everybody like the video, okay? Subscribe to the channel, obviously, and whatnot.
I need
Look,
to
there's a
follow.
lot of thoughts here in 06 going back to it and whatnot. Like it hurt because Ibra. You got another comment. Screw Ibra and whatnot. Listen, I will say back then, like I say now, is you can't expect players
Thick skin, buddy.
to stick around when it's their careers involved. The fact that those guys did for Juve is massive, but to expect that is crazy. And I always remain the same. To expect it also makes it less special and takes away from what those guys actually did, especially Gigi Buffon in 2006. Best goalkeeper in the world, could have gone
By
anywhere
far.
and probably gotten that Champions League trophy, but he chose to stay. Like, don't make that normal. And when we expect and when we shit on the other players that did leave, it's almost like making it a norm. Like, oh, we just expected all these guys during their careers, their livelihood, to stay for something that they had no part in, that had no control of. That's a tough ask.
And
So
they're
I
legends
never
of
do
the
that, and I
game.
never shit on the players that left or whatever for whatever reason. I just praise the ones that did stay. Is this our worst team ever? That comment came up. Is it our worst team ever on the pitch?
No.
Possibly.
Not
You
cool.
don't realize it while it's happening. You like realize it a few years later when you do have a better team. Because I thought that when 2019 team
I was going to
was
say that
thick.
team. Yeah.
But we had Grosso, world champion, Cannavaro, young Chiellini. Diego at the time was killer for Werder Bremen. Melo was the best midfielder in the league. We bought him after he won best midfielder in the league. Sissoko, Camoranesi, Giovinco, Trezeguet, Del Piero, Amari, Nedved. Like, you had serious guys who
How the
became-
hell
Yeah.
did you just list the whole team?
I was just gonna say.
Amazing.
I
That's
think
half,
on this team,
that's
I
half
think,
of the team.
and you're spot on in saying that you don't realize it as it's happening until you take a step back and you look at. I can't remember which game it was a few games ago, but we saw our lineup, and I looked at that lineup, and I was just thinking, my God, that's a brutal lineup. It was a brutal lineup, and this might be one of our worst sides as far as quality goes.
I mean, I'm not gonna dump on any of that because again, I wasn't even around for half the shit. But you look at our team now. If you didn't actually watch the games and see how bad we perform, you could say the same thing. We have Paredes and Di Maria, our world champions. But they play like ass sometimes. So it's a simple.
Di Maria
argument.
doesn't.
Sometimes. The point is hindsight 2020. When you look back on something, it's always a little bit different. A lot of those guys that stayed in 06 have become legends. Some of them probably weren't before that. Is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but
I
how
think
many
this
players
team, we
now
might
you
have to
think
start
are
a
going to be
different poll.
legends?
Would this team beat the 09-10 team? I don't know. It's close for me,
the
but
game
that's
has
the team
changed.
when I
I
think
don't
of
think so.
bad Juve sides.
It doesn't
I
matter.
automatically
It doesn't.
revert
Yeah.
to
I-
that.
It doesn't matter because
Diego
Allegri is the
did
coach. He's the
nothing
worst
for
coach of all
Juve.
time.
He was hot
Yeah.
coming in. He was nothing. Melo, we don't have to even say anymore. Amari was
Screw that guy.
brutal. Like,
But
we
I
just
will-
missed on so many guys there. So it
Can
is
we-
what it is. But
But I will just mention one thing. The poll was like 85% yes. This
Yeah.
is the worst season.
yeah,
And the guys there were legends, not only of Juve or of Italian football, legends of the game. Del Piero is a legend around the world. Nedved, Buffon, considered the greatest. Like, when you look at this team right now, how many of them do you think are going to be legends of the game?
We can't.
And-
Again, that's
and
hindsight.
that's-
2020.
That's the major difference. No, because you knew Del Piero was going to be a legend
Yes.
of the game.
So
Regardless.
there's the one-offs like Del Piero and Buffon who already were legends. Like
Yeah.
their status was coming.
And
Hold on,
that
Juventus
shows
legends
that
or
we
just
don't have these guys.
Legends
general
period,
legends?
I think, not just Juventus. Yeah.
Not just Juventus.
Yeah, but I don't know. And even to say
Two.
that
We
we
have
can't
two.
judge these players based on Max. Well, Max is not the one actually still out there on the pitch. And these guys still, like I said, we can't just put it all on the coach. Yes, Max is definitely responsible for what's going on, but he's not the only one responsible. And we can't just make the players free and clear. They got a tough hole to dig themselves out of it, and they're going to all have to come together. And for Christ's sake, we're talking about a retiro again. How many times can you retiro in one season? Like, this is insane.
This will be the second.
And this is
third.
where we've come.
Second.
No,
You
we haven't
have
lost
a
it.
team that is lost, that is looking for something to try and fight back, claw back twice in a season. This is a tough ask. It becomes today,
Only good thing
and
ever did.
we'll see what happens. We got another story in the barn says, will Juve sign players come the summer? We don't even know what's going to happen yet as far as where we are. It'll change grossly in what type of players we're looking for.
We'll definitely
so-
sign players.
Yeah, I guess we're
I-
One of them
I
might be
think-
Luca.
I think most of them are going to be guys coming back from loans. I hope the winter, Ranocchia, Rovella, all these guys may find a spot because of all the guys.
You're
that
gonna
are
have
leaving.
to wait and see what happens. But yeah,
We can't.
the
can't
talent pool could change drastically under the circumstances
Get a
that are
sporting
yet
director
to be
first.
seen. That's the truth of it. But yeah, we'll see. We might end up having our friend Mirko Di Natale on Sunday live, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Waiting to confirm. Should be confirming with Mirko today. And that'll be a fun show. It's always great when Mirko comes around. You guys, yeah, enjoy the game today. Like I said, no watch along because of work, unfortunately.
What day is it?
But hey,
Oh, Thursday.
Tuesday.
let's share all the content. Subscribe. It all helps. Check out the merch. Hey, it all supports, and maybe then you can help us not have to work. Help us not work, and then we could just do this all the time, and then watch alongs all the time. Weekend, we have no matches. Then we have Tuesday, Salernitana. Again, no watch along until we get back onto the weekend train, okay? Like I said, with everything going on right now, Coppa Italia becomes very important for Juve. So hopefully they can get the job done, all right? So enjoy the match, everybody. We will be back tomorrow morning, same time, 8:35 a.m. Eastern time, and we're going to recap this match, and hopefully this reverse prediction thing worked that I'm trying out today, and Juve gets the job done, and we have a victory to chat. Luca, Omer, Ant, always a pleasure, gentlemen. Everybody in the live chat, thank you. Drop a like again on your way out, and when you leave, drop a comment in the comment section. It all helps. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Please, please don't lose to that Saturday, man. Jesus Christ. Little notepad smoke. Ugly fucking Voldemort looking
3-0 up, he's
bastard.
taking
Jesus
notes.
Christ.
Love it.
Please don't lose to Saturday and Lazio. Get the job done, boys. Let's go. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Ciao.